Is it normal to be observing your breath and then be like, I'm not sure whether I'm observing it or controlling it? I can't tell.
Yeah. I think it is normal at first. And there'll be moments, I mean, if you do this practice and really do it, wild things happen. I mean, really incredible things that I wouldn't even get into in this podcast because it's so far out.
Life today is chaotic, unpredictable, and constantly shifting. But within the chaos lies opportunity, and we're here to seize it. This is Generation Uncharted. Joy, thank you so much for joining me on Generation Uncharted. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great, thank you. So, I wanted to kick off by asking you, we are in a world where sex seems to be everywhere, yet I do feel like people are more disconnected and almost ashamed of their sexuality than ever. What has gone wrong with sex and connection?
I think that we're in a world that is really just moving at such a quick pace. I mean, I even feel it right now. My heart is beating. I've just shown up for this interview. I'm like running up and down the stairs to get prepared. It's really sometimes it's hard to get a sense of ourselves in this environment that is just like constantly go go go. We're also being asked to perform. And I really feel like even right now in this moment, I just need a minute to just come into the experience of this, because that's, I think, what most of us are doing when we connect. We just go right in. We're like, okay, we're going to do this thing, and it's going to we're going to hop onto this bandwagon, and we don't really get time to land in the experience and feel where we are in it.
Yeah, but coming back to what you've just said there, so is there an argument that actually we're too distracted to have sex these days? If we're not distracted in the moment of thinking about taking out the groceries or that assignment at work or whatever it is, we're distracted by the porn we watched, and actually should we be doing that? Is there too much to go on to really just focus on physical intimacy with someone you like?
Yeah, our systems are literally overwhelmed. Everything that we take in, we have to process, and we're processing at like record speed. We're moving at the speed of technology, but that's not the speed of nature. To really digest what we're experiencing, I think most of us are just too filled up all of the time. And sometimes we use sex to kind of move that energy, but that's, in my opinion, not a very pleasurable experience.
Well, let's move on to your experience with Virgin Islands. So this is a very popular UK show, got a lot of headlines, and you were one of the intimacy experts on that show. So I guess the first question is, what made you say yes to being on a show helping virgins?
Yeah, well, the work is, this type of work is not really well known. And I think most people are like, what? You do what? You offer experiential coaching? But that's really the only way people can really get a sense for how to be in connection. I mean, we can do it through talking. But for some of us, when all of the energy starts to rise and we're feeling all this sensation, it's hard to stay present. So having a place to practice that, and a safe place to practice letting our guards down, being vulnerable, that's it's something we don't have in our world, where most of our guards are up and we have this like performance that we come to the space with.
One of the things that jumped out to me watching the show and knowing that it had been a little bit controversial was, isn't it weird that this is weird to some people? If you think about, we go to school and we learn so many things. You drive a car, you need to be taught. Yet sex and intimacy, the one thing that is, so personal, but most people want to do, is the one thing no one teaches you. We're just sort of expected to figure it out or just innately be good at it, especially at a time, as you're saying, where everything feels a bit hijacked. So is it strange that this is a strange concept in a weird way? Should it be more normalized that people are using intimacy experts, whether that is to lose their virginity or because the spark's gone in their marriage or whatever it is?
Yeah, it should be more normal, but I think we also need to look at the fact that we're in a world that's not operating in pleasure, in wellness, in authenticity. Our We're in unprecedented times. So I think that there's a bit of a shock in many of our nervous systems, especially for the younger kids. They're coming into this, what feels like chaos to some of us. Some of us are operating fine, but there are a lot of us that are just kind of like overwhelmed. And I think that that's one of the biggest issues is that, we think that the world operates in this certain way because that's what we've been thrust into. We believe that the people at the top with the loudest bark are the ones performing properly, but there's a whole set of people that operate differently, and we are receptive in nature, and we feel a lot more. It takes us a lot longer to process the present moment because we're digesting it through our entire bodies, and we're not even paying attention to those people. And those people, it's very hard for them because we just go into hiding instead of carving a strong path into the present moment. That takes a lot of sharpness and like this rising to meet all this energy. And most of us don't have that. I don't like to operate like that. I want to be really gentle in my system and protect these tender, beautiful energies that I have available to me that don't have space in our world. So I think that's the main issue, really.
Yeah, what you're saying is actually really resonating with me personally, because I'm someone that actually thinks, oh, I've met the challenges of the modern world and I've got all these projects going on, there's so much happening. I've actually really recently realized that I've got a lot of um, pet sort of anxiety just held in my body. Like little things like noticing that my jaw is always clenched or that my heart
Mm-hmm.
rate is going because I'm trying to do five things at once. And it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I think I'm actually getting out of almost the rat race of it all, where it's like, oh, actually, you can do these things, but the toll it's taking on you and the anxiety it's creating is not positive. And that was also something that jumped out of the show that you're on, is that actually there
Mm-hmm.
are these kids, these young virgins were anxious. They were so consumed with anxiety over this sexual experience. So I wondered if you could talk me a little bit through when people are suffering anxiety there, like how do you coach them through the anxiety of it all?
Yeah, so there are different ways. In my session, the very first thing I do is just be with them. And because I'm receptive in nature, I'm able to just let go of these projections and ways I want you to see me, I'm letting all that go and I'm just being with the person. And that gives them a sense of rest because they are no longer having to hold up their guards. When someone has a guard in place, then the other guard just naturally rises as well. So that's what we're feeling in the space. And that's not natural and that's not authentic. So, really, just being together and feeling how that feels okay is the very first step. Then there are tools that we can take with us, which are staying connected with your breath, not getting ahead of the moment or behind, sensing the atmosphere, sensing the space, and feeling yourself in it. So it's like we've been living up here and projecting from up here, but not all of us are. So it's really those of us who feel social anxiety, this is our nervous systems picking up on more. And I think this is actually evolution. I think we need this. It's a way of balancing the chaos that our world is becoming. This is what I
Yeah,
believe.
that's no, that's really interesting. I wonder, have you seen any differences in how anxiety manifests between the men and the women? Obviously, if a man is anxious, he's not going to be able to sexually perform. So I wondered how those anxieties maybe are different based on gender.
You know, it's interesting because gender can be so confusing, right? If we start looking at energy, and that's why energy is such an important topic, because when we start sensing the energy of what's happening, we get a clearer sense as to whether someone is directive in nature or receptive in nature. You can also be a man and be very sensitive and receptive in nature. That means you're taking in the experience. You're drawing it in and letting it move through you. So they typically present differently. For a receptive in nature, which is what I am, I just get shut down and I freeze and I tend to disassociate from the moment. For someone that's more masculine in nature, they'll just like rock their bodies very hard. So it's like bearing down against all feeling and shutting out all feeling so that they can meet the moment. But that is not, ideal either. The more receptivity we all learn to develop, then we can start to have this exchange. It's not some of us holding down so much energy, and they can loosen up a little and experience more pleasure. And for those of us that are bombarded with all the directives energy, we can relax a little because we're not receiving so much somatic information that we're frozen and overwhelmed.
It's really interesting. It makes me wonder, actually. Obviously, this was a show about losing your virginity, but is there an argument that a lot of people may have physically lost their virginity, but they haven't had sex because they're so focused on it being a physical thing rather than, as you're saying, it being more about connection and energy? Now, there are a lot of people walking around that would not consider themselves virgins, but have still not really sexually connected with someone.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think some people go their whole lives without experiencing this. I work with people in up to their 70s that don't experience or haven't experienced that level of emotional connection. So it is, I think, an epidemic in our world, unfortunately.
And if someone were listening to this and resonating with that point of like, my God, I've had sex, but I don't think I've had sex. I haven't had this meaningful connection. Like, what can they do other than obviously you were saying, be present with the person? Are there any practical tips to help with that?
Yeah, both parties need to be connected. So it can't just be one person that is open to this emotional connection and the other that is unaware of it. So we really have to start having talks and saying, I want to explore something new with you. And really, it's when we start exploring each other, not having this goal towards sex, but we start getting into the experience of like, let me sense what I'm feeling and sense this person through my hands, through my face, through different parts of my body. When we start exploring with curiosity and letting that exploration move us, that's when we can start to open those channels. But it really is hard. We have to have these conversations and also practice intimacy just in our day-to-day as well.
Well, speaking of intimacy, I did want to get your take on another show that is about, well, it's not really in the same vein as your show, but Love Island, which is obviously people that are looking to hook up, and there are limited people on this island, and there's all that kind of thing. How do you feel about shows like that? Do you feel that it's forcing intimacy in a way? Do you believe those people can have those genuine connections that you're talking about? What is your take on that kind of setup of show?
I think whenever there's a lot of like performance is like, I want you to see me this certain way. So I'm going to put on this thing and you're going to see me like this. And that feels so icky to my system. But I don't live in that dimension. Maybe they are really connecting in a way that feels fine for them. So I can't judge, I can only talk about what I feel and when that happens to me, when someone comes with performance like that, what happens to my system. I do think that most people they aren't exposed to real connection, so they don't know what they're missing sometimes. And it can even be very uncomfortable for people that haven't experienced it because it's like, oh wait, I feel very vulnerable. My guard is down and I'm feeling things I'm not used to feeling. I think we have a capacity for feeling, and most of us are diminishing our capacity for feeling by putting up these projections and holding, the performance.
Yeah. Well, talking about sort of intimate moments, I wanted to ask you, obviously you get naked on screen in front of the nation. How was that experience of sharing your body, not just with the people in the room, but obviously it was on television? I would also love to know just how you feel as an intimacy coach and how you find motivation, maybe even when you're not attracted to the person physically.
Yeah, so yeah, it was interesting. Undressing in front of all those people and knowing it. But, I knew it was going to be a moment for me that felt important. Like I'm doing this for a good cause. Unfortunately, everything I said got cut out of that moment, which was, this is just a human body and it doesn't have to be used for sex alone. This is just the vessel I've been given to navigate this reality while I'm here. And the more that we can actually be naked and not having it be about sex, the more we get to experience a pristine experience of the moment, because our senses are picking up on all the clothing instead of like the environment. So we have to process every seam, every sensation, and that takes up operating energy in the mind, if that makes sense. Yeah. But I also really just think it's important to demonstrate what it's like to not hide when we are naked, like to not shield, to not put on something to be sexy. It's really powerful to just see someone standing purely before you without anything on, in clothing, but also in presentation. And a lot of people ask me about what do you do if you're not interested or attracted, physically attracted to a person. And really, I think that, again, when we start looking at energy and sensing energy, it's a different world. It's a different dimension of experience. Some people's energy is so beautiful. And when you're just interacting with that experience and helping them to open to more of what they have available to them, it's like heaven. And that doesn't happen always with someone that you're physically attracted to. There might be no energy. So it's really, again, when we start looking at energy and sensing energy, our whole reality, I think, is going to change.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one with energy. Do you think that, and I guess a lot of people have different interpretations of what energy means. Some people would call it vibe, some people would maybe talk about it on more of a spiritual level. Do you think that it takes a certain kind of person to actually be able to see people's energy, whether that is in the spiritual, the vibe sense? And are a lot of us just closed off from getting people's energy and we're too focused on what they're saying or what they're texting to us?
Yeah, I mean, we're so identified with the material world that we look right through space. And space is here too. Because energy is not visible, well, it is if you start looking for it, but you have to decide to look for it, right? We're not doing that for some reason. But I don't really think it's, people attach the word energy to spirituality, and I believe it is in some sense, but we already know that on the smallest level, we are vibration. We are space. Quantum physics talks about this. Like everything is energy. It's vibration first. And when we start thinking about just what we're not looking at, I think that that's the thing about our world that's so confusing to me, is that we're not looking for what we're missing. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not here. So when we stop getting so distracted by the noise that we're being fed and consuming, all of these things that are from our phone and from television and from all of these things, when we stop and start to pay attention to these more subtle realms of human experience, we can feel so much more. There's so much more to uncover here. We're at the very beginning. And we just, I don't know why we don't realize that. I think it's partly because we're just thrust into all of these systems, expected to perform, and we kind of go for this wild ride that is life. We come to the end point and then we're done. And we never stop and land and say, what is this place? I don't even really know what I'm feeling about being here. So we really do, when we develop our...
People are too busy these days. People are too busy to do the reflection.
Yeah, well, we need to realize why it matters, because everyone's busy, but we can make time. And that's why intimacy and bringing that level of intention and presence into connection is such a wonderful way to get to the next places. Because it's a way to practice slowing down and being in your sensing body and really feeling. You can develop your senses through intimacy. It's fun, it's pleasurable, it's meaningful, it takes you to deeper places. So, that's what I say. Start with intimacy and see where you can go.
Well, let's just circle back around to this topic of virginity, because obviously it's gotten the nation talking. As an intimacy expert, how common is the problem now of people coming to you wanting to lose their virginity or needing help with being intimate for the first time? Because we're told that sort of statistically people aren't having sex anymore, and more and more people are leaving college or university without ever having sex. So is this a growing problem that you're seeing?
Yeah, I would say a lot of people just don't feel safe in connection. So having someone that is not judging them and is there to help guide the experience is really helpful.
Well, one of the things that I did want to ask you is, what did you learn working with these virgins? Did it teach you something that you didn't know before?
Again, I think that it just reiterates, we don't, our focus on sex is what diminishes all of what's available to us. And if we can just take sex off the table and have an authentic human moment, then everything naturally unfolds. I think that that's really what happened in my sessions too. We're not focusing on bringing sexual energy into the mix. We're just being humans. We're just being humans and feeling. And the feeling moves us. You know, it's like a more natural flow in my opinion.
You mentioned that a lot of things were cut from the show, and obviously, as we know, anyone that's worked on TV, scenes are cut all the time. Was there anything meaningful that was cut that you really wish had been included?
Yeah, there were so many things actually. You know, the main thing was when I was with Jason in the last session, we were in this moment of pure connection. And I had said to him as we were opening, the reason this feels so good is because your heart is open and so is mine. And I put my hand on his heart, and that is when he climaxed. And they took that out. And I was
Wow.
like, wow, I wonder why they did that. It's, you know, to me, that says so much. It was this brush against his heart. And he was like, that's when all of the energy came. You know, it wasn't from like grinding or focusing on getting off. It was from being in pure emotional connection.
Did you discuss that with him afterwards?
We haven't talked about that, no. Since the show aired, you
Okay.
mean? Or after the
Yeah, just
session?
about that. After the session, as in, like, because I'm assuming he probably thought that you'd have to be touching something else to make that happen, not his heart. So, what was that kind of discussion and that self discovery from him like?
Yeah, I don't think I'm not sure he didn't mention that he thought I should be touching somewhere else. But I think, you know, we had lots of talk before and after each session that was cut. So really, I forget exactly what we talked about, but it's just about digesting the experience and remembering to stay present, you know, those sorts of things. And he really took that with him. And I'm so glad. That's the main thing, is to just stay here and feel.
And do you keep in touch with people after the show or with your clients in general, or is that not a done thing?
You know, it's if I was a traditional therapist, I would say no, you're not allowed to do that. But I'm trying to actually open up a world in which people that have gone through these processes can experience and connect and relate in these ways that are they've now developed, you know, because the regular world doesn't have these ways of the space to connect in sensuality that isn't about sexuality. So I tend to keep somewhat of an arm's length, but I try to invite people into the workshops and into the other experiences I offer down the road, because it's really helpful once you've gone through the initial processes to keep practicing and to be around others who house that awareness.
What has the feedback been like that you've received? I don't know. I know that you don't do a lot of reading comments online and things like that, which is fine. But from people that are aware of you, people you've spoken to, what has the
Yeah.
feedback been to the show and also your role in it?
Well, I am reading messages because I'm curious about what people took from the show, what was meaningful to them, and it's what I'm receiving is the authenticity was really moving for them. I think so many people are craving vulnerability and authenticity. So, you know, that's the biggest feedback I'm getting. I think people also felt really I first, you know, it's hard for me to see sometimes, but people were feeling like there was pressure again to like have sexual energy, to have sex or move in a sexual direction. And people appreciated that I didn't put that energy into our connection.
I really enjoy what you've said around energy and that sometimes just take sex off the table and don't think about that and just let it be about connection. But I guess for the people of the show and some of the people dealing with virginity later in life, there does come a point where I guess virginity, for some people, they feel has become a burden and it becomes a bit of a consuming thing. It becomes something that they suddenly have anxiety around, and it's something that maybe they're thinking about when they're being in a moment that could be intimate with someone, or just having a moment with someone that is this going to lead to sex, or they don't know I'm a virgin, and all that kind of stuff. How do you coach people through that feeling of my virginity has become a burden, I've been a virgin too long?
You know, it's different for every single person, really. I think that the biggest thing is we have to be courageous in all aspects of life and really go forward and just meet the moment. So it's learning how to meet the moment in a way that you can handle handle. So sometimes hypnosis is a good way to just get ahead of it. You can begin to develop frameworks in the mind that see yourself as calm, as like enjoying yourself in that experience. That's one way to kind of get ahead of it and pre-program yourself to I don't want to say succeed, but to feel okay in the exploration as you are. And also just getting in touch with our feelings and being okay with feeling awkward. We have to be okay with feeling awkward, and most of us aren't okay with that. So I think that, as we normalize all of those things, it becomes a lot easier. And really working with a coach can help you normalize those things. It diffuses all of the intensity that you're carrying in your own system all by yourself. When you have someone to just kind of let it out to, it really removes a lot of the pressure.
I feel like hypnosis is not something a lot of people would consider. Have you seen the benefits, and how does hypnosis even work? Do you have to do regular sessions, or is it one session and done? How does hypnosis actually work?
Yeah, different people need different things. I tend to think it's a slow burn with hypnosis. Your brain is a series of pathways that are ingrained by how you pay attention and what you pay attention to. So you can change those pathways by imagining new experiences and putting yourself into that experience. So if you're someone that's nervous, and as soon as you meet someone and you feel all of your body just getting shaky and feeling sweaty, all of those, physiological reactions, you imagine yourself in the same scenario, and you feel yourself as calm, and you feel yourself in your surroundings as relaxed. And over time, that imprints on your mind, just like the real life experience imprints, what we imagine imprints too. It's so powerful. I think hypnosis is like modern day shamanism, really. It's incredible what our minds can do.
Right, well, let's move on to some tips-based questions, because you're an intimacy expert and people will be tuning into this because they would really like your tips. So I'd love to get some insight from you. The first thing I wanted to ask you about is sexless marriages. So if someone finds themselves in a marriage where the intimacy is just completely gone, what can they do to bring that back? Or is really the sex just the sign of a larger problem?
Yeah, sometimes it is just something people fall into. If there's resentment present, that really needs to be dealt with first, because whatever is in the space between is what needs to be worked with. So again, this is why it's so powerful to start sensing the space between you and the other. When you start sensing and feeling what's here, what's in the middle of us, then you can get clear on what needs to shift. So I think that's the first thing. I often tell couples to just sit while they're watching television even. Notice what you're feeling in the space between you. It's harder when you're just engaging directly. That's a lot of information to be present with. And for some people, again, that's overwhelming to their systems. So just start to notice, how do I feel? What do I notice when I'm with this person? Is there a low grade resentment? Am I not feeling safe? Am I not feeling seen? All of these things really have to be addressed first. And then just giving little exercises that people can do at home. One of my favorite is sensate focus. It's really learning how to touch in a way that isn't about getting towards sex. It's touching to explore through your hands and really seeing how much you can notice as you pay attention through your hands. After really, really taking a moment to get clear on what can I notice? How closely can I pay attention? Then you can start to invite in the intention to let that feel good. So paying attention in a way that feels good. And that's really what sensuality is. The more that we can be in that human experience together, not even romantically, just as humans. How can I pay attention to you in a way that feels good? Then we can start to digest the experience and not be so overwhelmed by just machine-like information that's coming at each other. That's how I feel often, is someone's talking at me instead of really receiving the experience and being with me and being who is this person? What do I want to know about her? That's a whole different, level of connection.
Yeah, no, I think that's fascinating. I actually, when told someone that I was going to be talking with you today, they said you must ask her about menopause and sex because no one talks about having sex in the menopause. See if she's got any tips for that. So is there anything that you do working with women that are going through the menopause and how that affects their expression of intimacy?
Yeah, depending on their history with intimacy, if they've had a really good experience of connection with their partners and they are embodied in their pleasure, menopause is a completely different experience. But for so many of us, many women are only discovering their bodies later in life. This generation of menopause. It's like, I know not so much me, but in the older generations, our bodies were for our husbands and we would have to have sex as a part of the marriage. It was just expected. So if you've had a life of, that kind of intimacy, then it's your body shuts down in ways. The way to bring the body back is to not put any pressure on the sexual system, to just be in a new exploration of feeling. And it's like slow sex. I think it's called carezza. There's a practice called carezza where you're just moving in slow motion. And again, it's that paying attention through the senses in a way that feels good with no agenda, with no need to climax, with no goal. We're just opening the body again. It's really, I think we all need to process and practice this, like taking the goal off the table and just being with what more can open, what more is available. I mean, I have to tell pretty much everyone to slow down and feel more and more tenderness. Like that's the thing we're missing the most, I think, is this tenderness that can be like the most blissful and sweet harmonic that blossoms the system open. And we're going offline to it because we're just not aware of it. And those of us who are very tender don't know how to take the reins and say, listen, you're going to feel this tenderness with me. We're going to pause and you're going to look into my eyes and let's really open this together. So I think, also just not putting expectations on how it's supposed to look and feel.
Yeah, I think you've already answered this, but my next question was actually going to be, how can people unlearn performance-driven intimacy? So have you got any builds on that other than what you've just shared?
It is a process because if you've created the pathways in your mind that are your habit, and you identify with those habits. So it takes time to undo your personality, if this is a part of your personality. But the way to do it is to, again, stay connected to the sense of the moment, to develop sensorial awareness. I'm breathing, I'm sensing my breath in this moment, I'm sensing the room, and I'm not going to embody my projection of what I want to happen or I want this person to feel about me. I'm just going to be with my feelings and let myself be vulnerable in them. Vulnerability is the ultimate tool for undoing performance anxiety and performance behaviors. Maybe not performance anxiety. You have to just be with the anxiety a little, but it will eventually undo performance anxiety but at first it probably will heighten it a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. I wanted to ask, and I know you said you don't spend a lot of time in online places, but are there any sort of dangerous sex advice and tips that you see being perpetuated either online or in the media that you wish people would stop sharing?
I was wondering about this. I haven't come across any, but I'm sure they're out there. Do you have any that you think might be dangerous?
I mean, sometimes there's almost too much of a focus on actually being a little bit promiscuous sometimes, and actually this idea of, go and have that one night stand and go and download this app for your kinks and stuff. And I think there's a fine line between sort of encouraging people to explore and not be too timid, and actually putting people in situations where you think, oh my God, I have no interest in this orgy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. I do think we jumped right into sexual exploration way too fast. So I think that is dangerous. I think it's also just a lack of awareness on the people that are giving that advice because we're not taking time to develop. And I don't think we're supposed to be having sex with everybody. I don't think we can have an orgasm with everybody. I think it's about, what's really in the space and what's really natural. And when we are in a space where we're just drawn to one another because we can't, it's here. We're not trying. It's just happening. I mean, that's like the most amazing experience. And anything else just feels kind of flat in my opinion. But it takes time to develop that, I think. It can. Sometimes it is immediate. And I think like that's where it gets tricky, right? Like I don't even know the answer. Like I think it's good to just explore. Sometimes you will cross your boundaries and not mean to. And if we can just realize that we're in this adventure called life and that sometimes it's going to be wonky and disconcerting and sometimes it's going to be fluid and amazing. It's the more we can just go for the ride and not make too much meaning out of whether this damaged me or now I'm traumatized. That we need to be responsible with each other, but we also need to just be courageous, I think. So I say sometimes take the leap, definitely, and notice what your system is doing. And if your system is guarding, honor that for sure.
Well, speaking of this, I believe that you wanted to demonstrate or walk me through a sort of energy exercise.
Yeah, if you're open to it, that would be great.
God, what's going to happen to me? Okay, well, let's go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, we're already engaging, right? So there's like some part that's already here, but connecting, if we're to just pause and now we're intentionally connecting. So that's like a little bit different. For me, I like let go of all the things we were just kind of engaging with. Even now, like I have been holding my body in tension in order to meet this experience. So part of me just wants to let that go a little bit now and come into my own full-bodied experience. So I'm not holding as much tension in my system. So first I would just ask you to do the same, is to just like really relax and let go of some of the external that we've been engaging in and connect with more of your internal processes. So your breath, and you can notice the sense of your breath. And you can also notice the sense of like me and my breath. You're paying attention partly to you and partly to me, and you're letting that like move you in a way that feels nice. And it becomes like this feedback loop where you're sensing you and you're sensing me, and you can look at me. Sometimes it's hard, but if you look with like soft eyes, yeah, that's great. There. So you're frozen now. Yeah, screen froze in it's a beautiful image of you. I'm gonna actually
You know what? The
capture it.
signal started going funny as soon as we started doing this, so that maybe the energy is affecting the Wi-Fi.
That's what happens. No, it's true. Actually, I just took a picture so you can see it. Our signals definitely pick up energy.
So thank you for sticking with us. My energy and Joy's tried to connect and it took out the Wi-Fi. So we unfortunately have had to record part 2 on a separate day and separate locations because the energy is clearly too strong. So Joy, thank you for coming back for part 2. Is this a normal thing that you connect people's energy and take out Wi-Fi's, or?
Yeah, it does happen. It definitely does happen.
Perfect. Well, because we are recording this on a separate day, why don't you guide us back into the energy exercise you were trying to lead for us, and let's hope that the Wi-Fi stays intact this time.
Yeah. So first we want to just get really comfortable in the environment that we're in. So in your body, whatever you need to do to just relax and settle in and really just put down everything it is that you're managing right now, even this podcast, if you can just put it all kind of away and really get into the feel of your environment and this moment. So it's really like sensing awareness. You're here, your mind is here, but your feelings and your body are more connected to what's happening. And as soon as you do that, I feel like this like sense of relief in my feminine system. It's like there's less being directed at me and there's more space for me to kind of be here with you. It allows me a different channel, if you will. And then we just take a moment to allow the sense of you in your environment to feel that and kind of share that through your presence to me. And I'm doing the same. So stay connected with your breath and the sense of your breath and the sense of yourself in your space. And then begin to notice my breath. Something shifts when we consciously become aware of each other's breathing. And you don't even have to see me breathing, although sometimes it helps. And then It's hard, but let's try to look at each other in the eyes. It's kind of hard through the screen. Oh, you're here. It's very wonky when we try to do that, I find.
Yeah.
What do you notice?
I feel like it's easy when I look at your face rather than look into the camera.
Yeah, for me too. So really the practice, the energetics of connection, it's really just the feeling. Energy is just the feeling of what's happening. But we are so used to processing through the mind that we're not like fully feeling the moment and digesting the moment as it's happening. And that's not just the feeling of me, it's the whole feeling of what's happening. So it's the room around you, it's the sense of the air on your skin. And this kind of helps calibrate you and me to a more full experience. So
And what would people achieve by doing something like this? Should we get, the heads of state that are at odds with each other to sit and breathe and actually connect? Like, would that actually help them, in your opinion? What can be gained from sitting
yeah,
quietly with someone, observing their breathing, looking into their eyes? What
yeah.
what could be achieved?
So just learning how to be together without putting everything on, putting our agenda on even. It's like holding an intention is one thing, but having an agenda is a very different energy. It's one that puts pressure on a system, on someone's system. My nervous system really feels it. So if someone has an agenda for sex, my nervous system will shut down. When someone is just with me and really happy to be with me and doesn't put pressure on me to go anywhere or do or perform in any sort of way, then I can really relax into the moment and share myself. And even Emma says that in the show Virgin Island. I don't want anyone to, put pressure on me. They just really like me for me. They don't want anything from me. So it's you know, what people gain from this is a clearer sense of what is really happening, because if we get out of our heads and thinking I want this thing, or I should want this thing, or she's so hot, like why don't I feel her, it's like we have all these ideas about how we should be operating, and the mind will lead us kind of not in the right place. If we have a wholesome experience, like the whole moment unfolding, we feel a clear pathway of what's really here. We're like, oh, I actually don't really want to have sex with this person. I really like them as a friend, though. And then something else can really open in this world. A beautiful friendship can evolve. It's this focus on sex that really, I think, diminishes these nuances in connection. So, the leaders of our world, if they were to sit, I think you have to practice learning how to drop your guard and be together.
Right.
And I don't think that they're in a position where they would do that necessarily.
Fair enough. There's quite a lot what you just said there that I want to unpack. Let's just start with breath as a whole concept, because everyone breathes. If you don't, you die. But actually, there's a lot more, it seems, to breath in a lot of different practices. I've actually been doing some of the breathwork things. It's not some sort of, unscientific concepts. There are things on different apps that are helping you do different breathwork to regulate your nervous system. It's taught to soldiers and Marines in battle to do box breathing, for example, to calm their nervous system. I had no idea how much your breathing affects your nervous system and what you're able to do in that moment. Obviously, we all know about meditation, where you're usually observing the breath. I know there are a lot of couples that kind of do just sit there sometimes, look into each other's eyes and observe each other's breath as well, and do that as kind of a bonding exercise as well. So why is breath so important?
I think that I'm not sure exactly why it works, but it feels like our inner atmosphere determines our outer atmosphere. Where breath is like where we exchange atmosphere, right? Like I'm breathing in space, and the way that whatever energy I'm breathing in, whatever I'm conditioning my system with, is determined by my mind. So if I'm in chaos, I'm going to and I'm breathing like erratically, that's going to condition my mind in certain ways. But if I'm really conscious and really intending loving breath or devotional breath, there are different channels that we're opening to. So we're really linked to this world in ways we don't even understand. And I think the breath is what links us to our experience.
That's really interesting. And what would you say to someone that's maybe listening to this and being like, "Oh my God, that makes sense," and actually I'd never really thought about breath as something that was that important and how my breathing affects my nervous system. What would you recommend to someone getting started in these kind of practices? Like, do you recommend someone starts doing meditation or breath work or exercises with partners or whoever they want to connect with? And how long should you spend doing that a day, week, month?
I tell everyone that if you can just stay in connection with your breath, always, if you just, and you don't have to alter your breathing, just awareness of your breath does something to kind of yoke you to your system. It's you're consciously connected with your system in this way if you're just aware of your breath. So that really shifts because we're all out here. A lot of our focus is like outward, and we don't take a lot of time to stay connected with our own systems and make sure that we're regulating ourselves. So really, if you just pay attention and stay in that, it will over time sort itself out, so it's not so difficult to do that. But at first, it's really challenging to stay in awareness of your breath. Even just in
Is
moments while you're hanging out, watching TV, any of those moments you can practice.
is it normal to be observing your breath and then be like, I'm not sure whether I'm observing it or controlling it? I can't tell.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is normal at first. And there'll be moments, I mean, if you do this practice and really do it, wild things happen. I mean, really incredible things that I wouldn't even get into in this podcast because it's so far out. But we start to unwind around the present moment. So it's, I think we're plowing through life without really settling into our environment, the environment of this world. We never really land in this world, many of us. And I think it's because we just are thrust into chaos almost. We're thrust into a life where we're expected to perform from a very young age. And we don't even know how to settle in and sense the moment. Animals look so connected with their environment because they are not stuck up in their minds. And there is like an animal to our body. And if we start to hone our systems in this way, I believe we will start to really find our place in this world and unify in a way that helps us thrive together. There's less need to conquer one another if we're like, oh, it doesn't feel good to do. Why would we do that? Why don't we just vibe together and create something really beautiful here? I mean, that's probably a very far way off, but I really think the way in is through this connection with the body and the breath.
Well, you know what? I feel like more and more people are getting sparked into curiosity with this. Like, even me this year, discovering sort of breath work and understanding the science of how that works and being a little bit more conscious of because I think the thing you're talking about at the top of this is like, I feel like everyone feels slightly overwhelmed. We're running from place to place, not even thinking about why are we even doing this? Are we even enjoying it, or is it just kind of stuff on the to-do list we said we do and we're rushing around? And I think more and more people are looking for ways to cope with that or to stop completely. So I think maybe more and more people will find these kind of practices.
Yeah.
And speaking of finding these kind of practices, I think one of the big things I wanted to know about you is, how did you get started in this line of work? I'm assuming this wasn't sort of something that the career counselor came around at school and said, would you like to be? So how did you discover this? How did you monetize this? How have you turned this into a career? Tell us the full origin story.
Oh my gosh, the full story. I just really felt like out of place in this world for a really long time. And I think that is related to trauma. And as a child, I was just kind of like, what is going on here? I don't even know how to be in this world. And I think a lot of us do feel that. So we kind of try to blend in or do what other people are doing. And it didn't work for me to do that. So I just started exploring, for the first time we really explore ourselves in relation to another person is through sex and, the fullness of ourselves anyway. There's so much we don't understand until we start connecting with another human being. And I just was like, there's got to be something more than this, because I wasn't feeling the connection I had. I couldn't access connection with other people as well as I could with myself. And I was like, well, I want to, obviously have an orgasm with other people and share in something that feels like amazing. Why can't I do it? So I went on this search, and yoga and meditation is my initial path, and that brought me to tantra. And even in tantra, I practiced in Thailand and in India, but even there I was like, something just feels like it's missing, and it felt like there was oftentimes things being done to me. I really felt like people weren't like with me, and I didn't understand why. And I think part of that was because I wasn't fully with myself. Like when there's trauma present in someone's system, it's hard to be with yourself. So you need someone that really is sensitive and able to sense you and help draw you out, instead of doing something to you kind of puts you back in. So you need someone that's a good listener and available to be really present with you and help you come to the surface and bring more of yourself out. So really that's what I explored, and found most people weren't doing that. So I just started playing with it myself, and playing first with practice partners, just people I was connecting with. I was like, wow, there's so much that happens when we focus in this way. And I was like, oh, I have this ability. I think that trauma gave me an ability to feel so much of what's happening in the space around me, that I was able to tune in deeply to people and help. I could feel what wasn't moving, or where they were like this. And I would just be like, oh, what can I change inside me to help them come out of this holding pattern. And I think that that's what's so exciting, is like, the people that are highly sensitive and people with trauma, there are abilities we have that we often don't explore, because we're just kind of like, this is all overwhelming. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm just gonna keep my head low and blend in and do the best I can, and then go home and have a relief from being in the world. But if we're given the opportunity to explore what we have, it's like, often we're not ever gonna be, I think, completely transformed and normal. You always work with what you have, and whatever normal is. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to kind of just delve into more things that we're not exploring. I know it's really helped me as a practitioner, and my clients all, to be able to highlight this deeper sense of connection. It's like a psychic channel almost. It's like there's this back and forth energy that just like starts to move through you, that happens when you start to link systems in this way. So I really think we got there with Jason. Actually, Jason and I felt that connection. You feel it once it's there. It's like, oh, there's like energy moving. You're not separate, you're like in a circuit, and it's something you open to. It's not something you make happen.
That's interesting. Just wanted to come back to the element of, because the concept of it all makes sense as you and I are talking about it now, but I think to a lot of people it probably wouldn't. So what is it like to go into business and to kind of say, this is what I'm offering, and people maybe not understand what it is? How do you go about even getting clients in that scenario? How does all of that work when you're bringing a concept that is unfamiliar in what you do? So how do you find people and sort of convince them and show them the benefits?
People come to me when they have an issue, and usually that's when we seek help. It's mostly men, because men's bodies stop working. They're not able to keep an erection or have an orgasm. And women, I think, are more used to just kind of bearing with their experience and dealing with it as best as possible. So they tend to seek less help. If someone is uncomfortable connecting, they usually contact me. If they feel there's something more they're not accessing, they will contact me. If they've done psychedelics and they're like, I am not experiencing sex in the same way, I feel I need something more sacred, they'll contact me. It's usually when they're trying to, like me, find out what more there is to connection. So yeah, people with erectile
So,
dysfunction will
well,
search me out.
interestingly, on this podcast, I don't know how, I've had a lot of different people on from different backgrounds, people that are sexual experts, but people that are, nothing to do with sex. I've had agony aunts and I've had different things. A lot of things have come back to porn and the impact it's had on men, and erectile dysfunction has come up quite a bit, actually, of the idea of porn-induced erectile dysfunction, mainly of kind of, people are just so overstimulated by what they've been watching in porn that they're no longer finding real-life partners interesting. So for men that come to you with... Do men come to you with that, or do men come to you with more of, actually, they've realised... Maybe they've had sex with, 60 women. They're like, but I've never felt connected to one. What kind of things are more what people come to you with? Because erectile
Yeah.
dysfunction is a big umbrella, I'm learning.
Yeah, porn is a huge issue for so many people, and it is this, I would say, it's an equal balance of both. I would say about half of my clients have experienced dysfunction because of porn overuse. But porn is so interesting because we don't realize how delicate our systems are and our sensing systems. We don't even realize that we have sensing systems. So when we're watching porn, it takes our awareness out of ourselves, out of our bodies, and into a screen out there. And it connects very strongly the head and the sex. And that there's this strong energetic line. We're creating neurological pathways always. So when we're creating a line that bypasses the sex, it takes us out of ourselves. It takes us out of the sense of our environment and it puts us somewhere else. It starts to really wire our systems incorrectly. You know, to rewire through the heart can be really challenging because at first people have a head and heart connection, but it's not connected to sex. So they might not be able to get an erection when they feel that emotional connection because they've bypassed it for so long. It does take time and practice and patience and a loving, just loving yourself through the process. There's so much we don't understand about how to operate and function as a human and in a body. So I think we're
What are some of the steps to rewiring so you're not going through the brain, you're going through the heart? Like, is that breath work? What is that?
Yeah, it starts with breath work and staying really connected to the feeling of the moment, the feeling of your, and you will have to actually activate your heart in the process. So I tell people to stay really here. If I have a partner that is not, you'll feel it because there's a kind of tension on the moment, and there's this try energy, there's the chasing of an orgasm instead of just being with this natural unfolding of connection. So that is the process, is to be really connected to the moment as a whole, to stay with the breath. And if you get stuck, if the breath is frozen, that means there's a blockage. So just allow yourself to take a breath. I think it's really powerful for partners to put their hands on each other's hearts. Really helps to bring the energy here. And I had that
Interesting.
moment, that was cut out of Virgin Island, and I thought it was so powerful. And I was so surprised they took it out because the moment I was having with Jason, we were very connected emotionally. There was all this energy, and you can see it. Your body starts to just breathe itself. And I said the reason this feels so good is because your heart is open, and so is mine. And I put my hand on his chest, and in that moment that I touched his heart, he climaxed. And that is like, so, I wasn't grinding on him. We often think we need to stimulate things just so, but it's that emotional connection that really gets like everything moving. It's such a huge channel.
So, obviously, when people talk about sex and people think about genitals, but then there is obviously a lot of people now that will say, no, the brain is the biggest sex organ in the body. But is your understanding that actually it's the heart? And that's obviously because it was cut from the show, is there a stigma around saying actually the heart is the biggest sex organ?
Well, the
Or is it the
mind is
connection organ?
the yeah, the mind is the body. Like it's just what we're paying attention to. Everything starts in the mind. But if we're in a world that's not really connected with our hearts, so we have to actually decide to connect here if we want to stay here. And the same with our genitals. A lot of us are mostly up here in our minds during the day, so we really have to work to bring our awareness through our bodies if we want to stay integrated to them.
One thing that you said that I just have to pick up on is psychedelics. So, how do psychedelics change the experience of sex for some people?
Well, people that have had really deep experiences, maybe in ayahuasca or even with mushrooms, sometimes have this opening that, it brings them back to the sense of unity with everything. And I think that that's our true nature. We are connected to everything, but we just don't realize it. So when you have this big awakening, and you try to have sex that's disconnected, feels like, and that's what happened to me. It feels like something's being done to you and that this beauty is not being realized really, the most connected sex for me is worship. It is making love. It's love for all things. It's love for this giant process of life that we're in for a very short time. And it's a miracle, right? That we're even here, that this even is happening. So to be in that, there's so much energy when you open to those channels. It's so much more than like, I'm gonna like you right now, Like that's hot, sure, for a little bit, but my God, I can't even go back to that at this point. I've tasted like the divine. Why would I want to change?
Well, actually, that was sort of my next question. So we've talked so much about energy and the importance of the connecting, but we do have to, for balance, just explore the other side. So I'm sure there are some men and women out there that are like, I don't care about their energy. Like, I just want to go in that bedroom, pound away like a porn star. I feel satisfied afterwards. Life
Yeah,
is good. I
yeah.
don't even remember their name or what their eye color was. Doesn't matter to me. On to the next one. And they're perfectly happy. So, do people need to do all of this breath work? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, what would be your kind of take on people that literally, have sex in front of the mirror because they just love it and they're not worried about the, the feeling of pleasure. They're worried about how they look.
Yeah, that's cool too, right? I mean, that's fun too. It's like, whatever works for you and your partner. You have to just feel what really makes you come alive. If you feel like something's missing, then you explore these things. But if everything works, I would just keep it as it is. And you don't have to even know someone's name or like have all those details. You don't need that to have a really powerful and potent and magical experience, I think. It can be in passing. It doesn't have to be with the same person. It could be just one time. But I do think that the energy makes everything way better, personally.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And then finally, I just wanted to ask, what are the things that men or women are kind of doing that they maybe think that the other partner likes that is a bit of a turn off in your kind of experiences of couples. So is there, men think that women want sex a certain way and actually they want it a different way. What are some of the common themes that you find, or anything that you wish that people would unlearn?
Yeah, the lack of receptivity, men's feeling like they have to be the force that directs the flow. Sometimes that works, but for so many women, we want to be received. We want to be felt and we want our flow to be felt. So we're so attuned to masculine arousal patterns in our culture. We're programmed this way. So it's kind of difficult sometimes to even be aware of what feminine arousal patterns are. They are slower. It takes more time and patience and presence to really sense what's happening, to sense a woman's opening. But that opening is what is the most juicy part because that's where all the energy comes through. And then you can start to pay attention less to this one line, this one, we're going towards orgasm. That's like the other thing, if we can take orgasm off the table and just keep feeling the feelings and allowing, like, where are we going with this? I don't even know where we're going. Let's just go for this ride. Then I think, it's a blissful and wild experience. But when someone again has that agenda and I'm going to take you to this place, I don't like that at all. Again, some people may, but a lot of women, I find their bodies shut down. They start to like wither, and this is happening in conversation on dates too. Men feel like they really have to be this force, and they're like, "Yeah, let me come at you," like, and it's so nice to have someone actually have some regard for my system. And regard is such a beautiful word. We don't this is why energy is so powerful, because when we recognize how we're coming, we recognize how we're impacting someone, and we can calibrate and see what's needed to help open this connection. But regard, I really love that word because it's like I'm here, but I'm holding myself back. It's an invitation, this moment. I'm not going to just like come at you and expect something, all a certain way, and you're gonna love my attention this way. It's like, give me a little space so I can feel my flow and let this flow combine and turn into something.
That was really nice. I can't let you go without asking about your future projects. Let's start with Virgin Islands. So, are there any plans for a season two, and would you return?
Yeah, I did just yesterday get a message from the producer saying that another producer would be in touch, and I was like, well, what does that mean?
Oh,
So they
interesting.
did, yeah, just get syndicated for season two. So I don't know, what that's about, but
And what would you like to see in a season two? if
Yeah.
you became the producer, let's say, do you think there are any things that could be explored that maybe season one didn't? Like, how would you take it to the next level?
Yeah, so much. I think that what we're missing is let's first have a human connection and see where that goes. Let's take sex off the table. Let's not teach these erotic techniques yet, because that's like, again, pressure on these virgins that are like, I don't even know what I'm doing here, To just be able to breathe and feel authentic for a moment, lets everything start to flow naturally. We don't have to try. And so I would really like to see more exercises that just get people into their bodies, into like some playful, sexually charged spaces that just let us be almost like kids, right? Because really, that's my favorite experience when I'm just playing and I'm not in my head about how I'm doing and I'm just like in the moment, using my body, laughing. Like, that's the ultimate elixir. So I would love to get them into that a little bit, but that doesn't make great TV for some people, right? So that's what's challenging. What I think could be interesting is, and this, is touchy to say almost, but I almost want to do a little like what's it called, practitioner friendly battle of whose methods work the best.
I was about to
Long
suggest that.
lasting, like you were.
Yeah. Maybe you said that to me subconsciously. I was like, no, you should have like kind of a okay, who can do it? But I guess the problem would be, what's the finish line? Is the finish line losing your virginity? Because some might be like, look, I'm not ready for
Yeah,
that, but actually I've evolved so much.
yeah.
But I think it would be worth doing a kind of like island battle.
Yeah, it's such a funny thought. But yeah, because I guess the difficult part with that is you can't really measure it. It takes a lifetime to measure a life,
Yeah.
and to see where we really are. But I really love, when I worked with Jason, I just recently saw his what he took from the show after now that he's seen it all and after it's aired. And what he said was so powerful, and it was that when we just stay present, that's the most valuable advice. Just be present and in the moment, and everything else unfolds. That's it. If we're just we're here. We're really here. We're not trying to get anywhere. We're just here. Everything unfolds for us. It's so much clearer than if we keep trying all these different things.
I think that's a discipline and a practice that the world is not keen to let us have with pinging phones all the time. To be
Yeah.
present and in the moment is elusive these days. So outside of
That's
Virgin
right.
Islands, what else have you got planned?
I'm developing sensuality and self-expression labs for highly sensitive people and for neurotypical people. Sensuality not as a way to get to sex, but as a way to experience the moment and experience ourselves in pleasure and in good connection. And self-expression comes from that place. When we're expressing from a place where we're embodied in relation to our environment, we're not just expressing all over in an imbalanced way. Because I think a lot of people are like, I'm self-expressing, and it's really like a lot for some of us to manage. So there's something about playing with the experience of the whole and seeing how we can contribute to the sense of our environment as a whole that feels really nourishing to me. And I think people are finding that as well in these labs. So I'm doing them through my nonprofit Haus. I'm developing programs through Haus too. Haus is a nonprofit dedicated to helping us learn how to cultivate this deep feeling awareness that we have available to us so we can start to be in better connection with each other and create a more cohesive world. Again, it's through developing our senses, our systems, sensorial awareness, sensual mindfulness. These are all ways to kind of activate these awareness patterns that allow us to have these deeper, more fulfilling connections. I'm really looking for people that want to team up there because it's a big vision I have for this nonprofit, and I definitely could use some support.
Okay, well, that was brilliant. And social handles?
Yeah, Instagram and TikTok I think they're both joy.regal.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and we'll look out for you on season two.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much, Lewis. And I'm sad we didn't get to do any exercises. I had some planned. So if that's something that interests you, we can definitely.
Let's do it. What exercise? What exercise did you want to do?
Well, I have a few, but the one that I find really helpful for people, and this can be really helpful if you're feeling a moment of spinning out, is
Okay,
it's a mindfulness practice, a sensual
let's do
mindfulness.
it. I could use a mindfulness practice.
Okay, good, good. So really what you can start with is just putting your hands on your lap in a way that allows you to feel the texture of whatever it is you're wearing or not wearing.
Yep. It's
And
very
then
hot in
you,
London. I'm wearing short shorts, so I'm
yeah.
just stretching my legs.
Same, same. And then you want to basically turn on your hands as feelers, like really allow your hands to become sensing parts of your body, and begin to move your hands in a way that allow you to pick up as much information as possible. So how closely can you pay attention through the feeling of your hands and really notice like temperature shifts? Can you notice temperature shifts? Can you notice texture changes? So you're paying just very close attention. You can even move your body around this. So as you're paying attention, allow that exploration to feel good. So paying close attention in a way that feels good. And that's with anything. You can do that with eating, paying attention to the taste of a berry in your mouth, seeing how far you can feel the sensation of it in your whole system, and then letting that feel good. So you're applying attention plus intention. And that's when we really learn how to drive. And you can do this with yourself in the moment. What can I notice with all of my senses combined in this moment? And how can I then let that feel good? So, yeah, I think we can really condition our systems in this way. And it's beautiful and just nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will try that next time I'm feeling overwhelmed.
Good.
Thank you so much for all your time. This has been brilliant.
Yeah, so nice to reconnect with you too. Thank you, Lewis.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.